Welcome everyone to another edition of Playthrough, and on this edition it's Bio Force Ape, a game that was unreleased but the prototype was found just a few years back. Basically, in the game, you play as a monkey whose owners were kidnapped, and your goal is to, well, save them, and you do so by drinking a potion and becoming kind of a half-man, half-monkey hybrid, and you actually have some really cool animations. Unfortunately, the game is not finished, and I'm not sure exactly how much of it was and what we're actually getting a chance to play. While I'm not sure there was supposed to be more levels in the final version, there are only 3 levels here for this particular prototype. One of the things you'll quickly notice about the game is the speed. Just at the very beginning, you're going so fast on these moving platforms as you're landing on them. You fall for long periods of time, and thankfully there's no fall damage in the game, before we immediately start getting blasted off again. At the very beginning of the game, you don't have any control over your character, and that's why you kind of get knocked off the roof by the sumo guy, and then you start working your way around the level. There's lots of enemies for you to battle, and you can choose to fight them if you want. Not only do you have a punch, but you can actually duck and do kind of a sweep kick, and there's a few little things with the animations of just fighting, and then when you end up stunning your enemy, you can end up doing a wrestling maneuver to them in order to finish them off. All the enemies in level 1 are completely optional. In fact, even level 3, a lot of the enemies are optional, except for the very end of the level, with only level 2 forcing you to fight a lot of the regular enemies in the game. And there's some really cool creations. It seems like everything in this world of Bio Force Ape is like these anthropomorphic half-animal, half-man beast things, like a guy who's part alligator and one that's a giant bee. There is a lot to get used to, though, if you ever check out this particular prototype, because of just how fast your character moves and learning how to manipulate the jumps and get that momentum going enough so you're able to get through things. It is pretty straightforward. There is a few dead ends in level 1. Level 3, though, is the maze-like level that will really kind of test your movement, and as well as being able to be pretty frustrating because of just all the various paths you can end up taking. That sense of speed, though, especially in an NES title, was something that you didn't really see all that often. It was something more reserved you would think for like Sonic the Hedgehog, but there is just some really awesome speed that you're able to gain as you're running through, especially the first level. When you make it to that first elevator, you come over here and you have to do a series of platforming. Holding down the jump button as it releases while you're on this will send you flying upwards a little bit higher up into the air, allowing us to go back and forth between these elevated platforms. When you do reach the top of this segment, you're going to drop on down, and to the far left, there is another elevator for you to take that will take you up to the rooftop area, which is the location of the sumo guy we saw at the very beginning of the game. Though I will battle him here, it isn't necessary. You can just jump over his head and get past him and be able to get to the end of the level, so if you want to save even more time. The longest segments, though, for the first couple levels especially, are the elevator ride, as it takes quite a bit to kind of ride through both elevator segments, as well on the second level is a minecart themed stage. So you have a lot of minecart segments, you have no control over your character. So for attacking, I'm just going to move forward a little bit and keep on punching this sumo guy. After I hit him enough, though, he'll become dizzy, and I'll be able to do a little bit of a wrestling move to him. I grabbed him in kind of a bear hug and swung him around and threw him. Then jump off the roof, and when you land at the bottom, or while you're falling, if you aim it correctly, you'll end up grabbing the kid that is your owner's kid or whatever, in which case you complete the stage and move on to the second level of the game. Now, level number 2, like I said, is a minecart-themed level. You start off by immediately dropping into the minecart, and every time it pretty much comes to a stop, you'll be able to get out and usually have to defeat an enemy real quick, and then get a platform to appear that you can then use to either ride up or be able to jump off of at least in order to continue on. This gives us a great chance to see a lot of the animations that they went through, including, like, vertical suplexes, back suplexes. You also have some swings of a few different types. It's just really cool to see kind of that fluid animation of the sprite work here with this game, and that's what makes it impressive. Nothing else about the game screams that it would have been an absolute smash hit, but the speed and those animations that were put into it makes Bio Force Ape at least a curiosity and worth looking at a bit just because of that. Unfortunately, there isn't much difficulty because of the way everything's set up. It's really easy to kind of just run up and button mash the attack button on all of the enemies that we end up battling them. None of them end up giving any kind of challenge. They just immediately grab this guy by the legs and swing him all around before releasing him. Once you defeat an enemy and that platform appears, just pretty much keep going in whatever direction that ends up being. Obviously, because of this, very, very linear of a stage. You don't have to worry about kind of going down any of the wrong paths. That enemy right there, for whatever reason, I don't know if that's because they didn't program him fully, ends up only having 1 health and just punch one time, he flies off of the screen. I would love to know why exactly Seta did not decide to finish up the game and actually release it. Seta did a lot of games, kind of more obscure ones, including some of my favorites, like The Adventures of Tom Sawyer for the NES, and of course, one of my all-time favorite games in 8 Eyes. So I feel like this game is actually one of their better works, at least as of what it is here. It was polished and finished up. There was some really cool stuff with this game, so it would have been really awesome to have seen Bio Force Ape actually get that initial full release. I think it would have done relatively well, or at least many years later would be considered a hidden gem of the system at least. Now, after defeating this enemy, you actually have to jump up to the platform on the right and jump up. It's a little bit harder to actually reach this one. I don't know why they kind of put it a little bit more out of reach. Either way, once you're in here, you battle another one of the sumo guys, like the one that we battle on the rooftop of level number 1. Either way, we can just bash the crap out of them in the corner and easily take care of them. Here at the end, we just jump up, save the scientist, I think. Maybe even the parent of the kid that we saved in the first level. But either way, we've saved both of them, and now it's time to track down the evil menace that caused the problem and defeat them once and for all, and potentially return ourselves to our original monkey form. This level is a big maze, though. Start off by immediately flying up using the big fan. To the left side, you'll find a TNT detonator. Hit that, and once you do so, you'll be able to go to the right side and drop on down here to find the first of the warps. The whole level is filled with warps, and you do have a map that you can bring up at any point in any of the levels to kind of tell you where the goal is, but it's a bit difficult to kind of read the map, that is for sure. When you make it into this room, fly on up, go to the right and hit the detonator, and then you want to do a big leap over to the left. You'll be in an area with all this blue here. Once you're over here, you need to drop all the way on down to this teleporter located down here. Once you're into the red area, jump over to the right a little bit and you'll be able to find another teleporter. Once you are here, drop on down and hug the right wall so that you land in here and hit another detonator. This will blow up one of the ones that was being blocked earlier when we went to this room. Fly on up once again, do a big running jump once again all the way over to the left and use this teleporter. Now when you go into this room this time, instead fall down and hug the right wall. You should be able to get in now that we've hit that detonator. Hit this one and then hug the left wall. That detonator activates the one right before that teleporter, and now we can use that. Now here comes some tricky platforming. It's a little bit hard to kind of figure it out initially, but basically you just have to double tap the jump button. That second press of the jump button will send your character flying up into the air, allowing you to easily maneuver in midair and land on the platforms. Once you've done that, head through that next teleporter and be careful not to run too far to the right, because you're now going to have to move through a series of up and down moving platforms. Yeah, they get your money's worth out of platforming here, and with all that high speed that's going on throughout most of the other areas, you really kind of have to slow down and take your time for this portion of the third level. Go through the next teleporter and drop on down. Use the big fan to boost your way all the way over to the left so you land on this spring and spring yourself upwards. Then fall down and take another teleporter. Run over to the right, watching out for the spikes and being sure to hit the detonator located here, and you'll head through another one of the many teleporters. Now, there's several teleporters in a row here. You want to take the third one from the right, so count 3 over and then go through there, and you'll know you're in the right area. It'll be red, and to the left is a whole bunch of conveyor belts. Now, this is going to put up a challenge to you. You really have to kind of test your powers and skills at the jumping here in Bio Force Ape in order to kind of make your way up this series of conveyor belts to get to the very top. But once you've made it to this part, we're almost to the end of the level, and thus also the end of this prototype. In this room, there's a couple of more teleporters in a row. Take the second one, and then you'll be in another room with a big fan. Use this to boost your way up into the upper right corner. Now you'll have several little areas in a row that are these rotating squares that have spikes on them. Obviously, you need to time it so that you're landing on the top of it while it's safe, and then just keep on doing this. Jump from one to the next, getting over the walls. If you fall, you're okay. It's safe down there, but this is what you have to do in order to get through, and once you do so, the boss will be waiting for you. Punch the boss once to activate his final form, which is just like yours, and then punch him one time and he's defeated. Unfortunately, they didn't do any programming to the boss. One simple punch, and there you go. You get to enjoy the brief ending to Bio Force Ape, which is just as simple the end as the monkey runs back to its owners and everyone's happy. You then get to see your time and how it racks up with the default in-game times. Like I said, this game was very much about speed, which is something that you didn't see very often, if at all, back on the 8-bit system. But that's it. Unfortunately, after that, it goes back to the title screen. You can start the game all over again. But either way, guys, that's also going to wrap up this episode of Play It Through. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, consider giving it a thumbs up or commenting down below. If you enjoyed this playthrough, be sure to check out the one I recently did for the Addams Family on the Super Nintendo, one of my favorite platformers that not a whole lot of people talk about. Or if you want something a little bit different, I just recently counted down my absolute favorite top 10 horror-based games from the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis era of systems. I also, of course, need to thank all the members of my Patreon. Without your guys' continued support, I wouldn't be able to keep doing what I'm doing, so thank you all so much. It really does mean everything to me. And anyway, guys, thank you so much for also watching this video. And of course, I hope you enjoyed.